Hello, everybody. Welcome to Everything in Moderation, episode. I think this is 10. To be honest, I did not check after before this. Oh well. 10, 9, whatever. I think it's 10. How is everyone doing today?
I'm doing great.
The Steelers are clapping the Bengals' cheeks, so I'm having a great day.
Is that why you decided to join us now? Because like it's so within like reasonable doubt.
Yeah, there's 5 minutes left, and we're up by like 30 points, so I felt safe. I'm following it on ESPN.
So, what brings us to our chat today? What is our topic?
I think we're doing the pros and cons of socialism.
Eric,
The dreaded S word.
there's no one better to start than you. So,
All right, can I share my screen?
yeah.
All right, I made a little diagram in Paint for the.
Oh my goodness.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right. So basically, we'll start off with like an explanation of like what socialism actually is, because contrary to popular belief, socialism does not mean when the government does things. So, and like socialist economies work in this way. So, let's say the worker gets paid $10 an hour, and they produce $15 of value per hour. That leaves a $5 surplus essentially, right? So in capitalism, the business owner is going to get all five of those dollars. In socialism, it's split between the worker and like the owner of the business. There's a lot of different ways. Like I've seen a lot of different systems. One of them is like it's split like 50-50, completely evenly, no ifs, ands, or buts. But another one I saw that was interesting is that the business owner gets like double the amount of the worker until like the money's paid off that it took to start the business, and then it's split evenly. Like you could do a whole bunch of different things with it. So yeah, initial thoughts on that?
Sean seems to have one.
Yeah.
That was a question.
Okay.
It's directed to Eric, because I know Eric can live, eat, and breathe socialism. He would.
Whoa.
So why do you think that the worker is entitled to the money when it's not their business?
I would raise the question: why is the worker, or why is the owner entitled to the money that the worker is producing?
Because I own the business.
But does that give you the right to money, to the money that the worker is making?
Yeah, you chose to work for me, I give you a salary.
So I actually wanted you to repeat a point. I think I heard that. I heard one point right. You mentioned that it could be until the business was paid off.
Yep. Like the initial investment.
Explain that again.
So there's like a lot of different like types of socialism essentially, but like one that I was reading about says that like let's say the business owner puts in like $100,000 of his own money to start the business.
Mhm.
Until he makes back that $100,000, he'll make twice as much from this surplus value as the worker. So like I don't know, I'm not good at math. It'd be like 350 and 150. 350 goes to the owner and 150 goes to the worker. Until that 100,000 is paid off, then it'd be split like
Then it's 50-50.
Yeah.
I'd say if you want to enact something like this, the worker is not entitled to any of the money, but you split it like how it was. And then the money that in the diagram would go to the workers is instead like the owner gets his part, and then the part that's supposed to go to the workers in that diagram, you have to put it towards the business, like improving the business.
That's a fair compromise, to be honest. Like I don't personally, I don't think that like full on socialism would be a good idea in America. I think it's like a good idea in theory, but like I don't know how it would work like in practice. But I was also reading about like this, like a couple studies were done, like worker co-ops. Do you guys know what that is?
Mhm.
It's kind of like a business can like adopt like a socialist like type of business model essentially. So like the workers have like democratic voting power, and they make like similar money to like the owner. And like I saw like production was higher, like worker happiness was higher, but like those are just a couple studies. Like it's not very widely researched, so who knows?
One of my main like gripes with it was, the fact that um socialism doesn't really like incentivize people to create businesses in a way, in my opinion. But if what you described just a couple minutes ago with that, I feel like that would be a happy medium in a sense, because then it's not like you're taking this whole like $100,000 investment risk. and then like you're not like you might not be able to pay it back.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it sound a little better. In terms of like, so that's my question to you. In like a true like socialist society, what would incentivize people to open up their own businesses?
Well, I would argue that most people aren't motivated simply by like money. I think that's like part of the motivation, but like a stronger motivator is definitely like an intrinsic motivator, like wanting to like do good or like wanting to create like a cool product.
Mhm.
And like a lot of people argue that like if you had a socialist like economy, it would like disincentivize innovation. But I don't know if I agree with that because like for like a lot of these like big like tech companies or whatever, the people who are actually doing like the work and like doing like the innovation are the workers. So if like they have like voting power, if they like if they do something good and they directly benefit from it, like getting money or whatever, I think that would like create even more innovation.
By the way, complete side note, has nothing to do with what we're talking about. If you hear background noise, the ocean is currently trying to blow down my house with wind. So
Yeah, the storm out there is pretty bad by me too.
actually, like, I think my windows might fall off. There's like the original 1940s windows that were in this house.
God damn. Made and produced in America. um,
Bad.
so could you explain what a socialist economy would be if you have like an idea?
Like just like in general, like a basic socialist economy, it
Well,
would.
like what would like trade look like? What would a market, if there is any, what would that look like?
Well, there's definitely like free market socialism. Like that's definitely like a thing that like I feel like that's more common than like true like socialism, like in the traditional sense.
Mhm.
Um, which is like they believe like those people would believe like certain products like are better handled by like the free market, but like certain things wouldn't be. So like if you have to go to a hospital, a lot of people would argue that capitalism wouldn't be like a good idea there because like you can't really like shop around for the best prices. You're just going to go to the hospital and get your stuff fixed. You
Mhm.
can't really like let the free market work. Whereas if you're like going grocery shopping, it's a whole nother story. You're going to look for the best product for the best price.
That sort of reminded me of what Norway does with oil. Like they own a lot of the major oil companies. I
Hmm.
think that's like a similar like thing to that.
Honestly, I think like the bet also it's important to make the distinction that like in a true like socialist business, like the workers have like democratic like voting power. So like they could either have like equal voting power, like everyone's like perfectly equal, or like you do it like an election, like you elect a like a boss who like votes for you instead of just like this is your boss, here's like he tells you what to do.
And um so what would be an example of like a society that has put this into practice?
To be honest, I'm not sure.
W season.
Um so
But there's definitely like worker co-ops in America. Like I think there's like 500 companies I saw that are worker co-ops in America.
Sean is celebrating the Steelers right now. Um for the people who can't see him just making random hand movements.
But I think at the end of the day, like the best system is always going to be a compromise. Like maybe like the biggest businesses would have like some aspects of socialism, but like the smaller ones like would be like capitalist because like then it would still like incentivize people to make their own company.
mhm. We actually talked. Do you think that socialism works better in a smaller environment or a bigger environment?
Probably better in a smaller environment.
Yeah.
So
And I think it'd be better like if you have like a big company in like a small country, for example.
okay.
I
So
will agree with you on socialism and healthcare. The healthcare system should be socialized. So you got me there. I know you're working to get me on all these big businesses too.
when we were talking about Chile in one of the international episodes, um one of the guys on there, Danny, actually said that we were talking about Chile, and Chile is like had a far right regime from like the 80s when Pinochet was the dictator.
Yep.
So obviously, right, they had their, totalitarian is totalitarian. So really, it's not really that good either way. So communism, fascism, neither of them are friends. So, but they have like a free market. Do you think that socialism would work better in there? Because like Danny said that it would be easier for capitalism to work there because it's less of a cost, where socialism would cost more for the people.
In like a totalitarian government, you're saying? Like it'd be
No,
better.
because they tore up their constitution. There's a democracy now.
Okay.
Yeah, but he said that socialism would probably work better here rather than in Chile.
Oh, well, I don't know. I feel like the word socialism is so like feared in America. So like anything like socialized is like everyone gets so afraid of it. So I don't know. I don't know if it would really work here.
Why is there a misconception between socialism and communism?
Propaganda. Cold War propaganda.
I would say that, or more accurately, I would ask a question. Do you think it's easier for a rebuilding society to be based off of socialism or capitalism?
Good question.
Like rebuilding a society, like building from the ground up.
To implement with a rebuild.
I definitely think like it's sort of like a progression, like right. So you start with like trade. Like I'll give you like 3 cows for like some wheat, and then it builds up from there. And then you're like, oh, we have money. Like I can hold my money and buy something. So it naturally progresses to capitalism, as you would say. And I think like the final, I don't know, maybe not the final, but like the next progression is like putting some sort of like socialism in place to like get rid of like that crazy wealth disparity.
Eric, you mentioned, what was the word you used to describe like a socialist like economy? You said something like, I can't remember what it was though.
Market socialism?
Yes. So do you know what state capitalism is?
No.
Okay. So state capitalism is what China has. For anyone who says that China is communist, no. It is ran by the Communist Party, yes, but that doesn't mean that everything is just communist. There are some issues with like totalitarian stuff going on there, but still there's somewhat of a democracy. That's for the international episodes. So state capitalism is an economic system in which the state undertakes business and commercial economic activity, and where the means of production are organized and managed as state-owned enterprises, including the processes of capital accumulation, centralized management, and wage labor, or where there is otherwise a dominance of corporatized government agencies, agencies organized along business management practices, or of public companies, such as publicly listed corporations in which the state has controlling shares. Marxist literature defines state capitalism as a social system combining capitalism with ownership or control by a state. By this definition, a state capitalist country is one where the government controls the economy and essentially acts like a single huge corporation, extracting the surplus value from the workforce in order to invest it in further production. This designation applies regardless of the political aims of the state. Many scholars argue that the economy of Soviet Union and of the Eastern Bloc countries are modeled after it, including Maoist China, were state capitalist systems. They also argue that the current economy of China constitutes a form of state capitalism. Initial thoughts on that?
It seems interesting, but I feel like it's giving the state way too much power. I would not trust them with that much power. I think it should be more like giving the people power than like giving like the state power.
Mm-hmm. What would so? Sean, what would you say?
I said that sounds very close to like totalitarianism.
Yeah.
You pronounce it.
So what would be the difference with a market socialism?
Like the means of production with like you're basically like that's kind of like describing more like communism, to be honest, because it's like the state are owning the means of production as opposed to like the workers owning the means of production. So instead of the workers getting like that surplus value, getting that vote in the business, that all that power goes to the government instead of the workers.
There's a lot of people that argue that state capitalism isn't actually capitalism. So like there's that argument there too.
I was gonna say I would argue that's more like communism.
Yeah. And I was discussing this with someone the other day. I remember you brought it up one time. People think a political spectrum the political spectrum in a straight line, but in reality, it could probably be like a U.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna share that actually. Let me pull that up. But
My professor in my Western Civ class freshman year pulled this up, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
let me see. So I think that that's more of an appropriate, like as I'm continuing to delve into these political theories and whatnot, I feel like this makes more sense because like when you compare fascism and communism, the end result is to strip rights away from the people. So
Yep.
like, does it really matter how they do it at that point?
It's like different means to the end, basically, to the same end.
Okay, hold on. I'm desperately trying to find this, but I cannot seem to. Is there like it's the horseshoe theory, right?
Yeah.
For anyone who is listening, definitely take a minute to look at this right now.
For anyone who's listening, enjoy the dead air.
Yeah, right.
Some acapella.
Let me share my screen. So, political horseshoe.
Liberalism.
Corporatism, Catholicism.
Kind of agree.
So, what's the lunatic fringe? Could you explain that?
I have no idea what that is.
It
It's
is
just like,
anarchy.
yeah, it's anarchism and Islam and Islamicism.
You want no government. You just want to be able to do whatever you want, whenever you want. It's like basically the purge.
Okay, so what is? Oh my God, I can't spell.
If I had to guess at what this is, it would be strict adherence to the Quran, like what the Taliban did. But I could be completely wrong. That's a guess.
Yeah, should be guided by Islamic principles. Okay.
So it's basically what the Taliban do.
And we don't like that. So you would you guys agree with this, that this is a better way to look at it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely better than the straight line.
Yeah.
I like the political compass too, though. Have you ever seen that? I think I made you take that test.
Yes, we took that.
I'd like to see what
Actually, I'm trying to find
about that whole view thing.
The political compass is basically like it's like two axes. The x-axis is like left and right, and the y-axis is like totalitarianism or like authoritarianism and like libertarianism. What's up?
Going back to that U instead of the line.
Yep.
I'll ask you, how do you feel that anti-vaxxers are in the socialist category?
I don't know what that was about. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Hold on, let me share this.
Hey, if we're gonna share all of our profits, we should share all our diseases too.
Socialism.
So this is the political compass. You could take this test. I think that it's probably a good idea. Like, it's just nice to see.
We should do an episode where we all take the test.
I'm down. But it has to be used with, like, I'd say you look at the results with caution, because like I was like right here.
Yo, Christian, pull up the one next to that.
Which one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. So I was right here. I think it was like, I still have it somewhere, but it was like, no, I think I was more like here. Yeah, I wasn't really that much right. But then Eric, you were like here, right?
That's pretty accurate, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like pretty much no one is above the y-axis, like, of people like that we know.
Yeah.
And then it's just a matter of like what you believe, like in terms of like left, right.
And also how libertarian you are too. It's also interesting to see.
So I think that if you know how like it gave you like a person to compare yourself to, like in terms of the ideology. Yeah. So like for me, I was like right where Milton Friedman was.
Makes sense. I think I was right by Bernie Sanders.
Don, you took it, right?
I took it. I remember I was kind of close to where you were, a little bit more to the left, like towards the middle. I don't
Okay.
remember what my comp was, but I would like to retake it because I feel like I've changed some of my views since I took it probably at least a year or two ago. So I'd like to see where I am on it now.
I think that like it's weird though because like the difference between us is like maybe like 2 or 3 answers.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
don't know. I think I'm pretty different from your.
Yeah, with you, yeah, you're a special case.
we're in top.
Thanks.
But how many questions were there? There was like 40, right?
Yeah.
So like again, that could be 5 or 6 questions. Like it's still not like crazy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, that's why I say like you take the results with like a grain of salt. But
It's a good
um,
indicator.
what did you say, Sean?
I said it's a good indicator. Like
Yeah,
you know,
it's a good indicator. So like I thought it was interesting to just like revisit Milton Friedman. Like I learned about him in class.
Yeah.
And then I was like, listen to his economic policies. And I'm like,
you know what? I'd love to know where Borat would be on there.
it's about that. Um,
Very nice.
very nice. So Eric, do you have anything like you'd want to say about socialism that's like something like a stigma around it, or just like a general thing that people might not know about it?
Well, like I said earlier, a lot of people think like the government doing things is socialism, and that's not what it is at all. And also, there's like a difference between like political socialism and like economic socialism. Like an economic socialism would be um, like the business thing we were describing, and political socialism would be more like um, socialized healthcare or like socialized medicine, like stuff like that. Public schools.
So again, like we went back to like what's the most socialist nation that you could like pick out if you had to today?
A socialist nation, I'm not sure, but I will say like I don't think that the most socialist is necessarily the best. I think like I read a lot about like Nordic countries like Norway. I think that they have a pretty cool system going on there. The people there are pretty happy. I don't know. They're like I feel like all the important like metrics that they use, like average wage, like happiness, all that kind of stuff is like better there than it is in like true like laissez-faire capitalist countries. I think it's an important like balance to try to make.
We discussed that on a previous episode. I remember. Can't
Yeah.
remember what it was, but so yeah, so like basically what you're saying is like the balance is obviously key.
Yeah.
The balance is key, and those are the I guess you could say that's the Nordic countries. They obviously have a free market going on there. But yeah, and then it's like a high cost of living, but the people are happy because they get that free college, free healthcare, etc. So it's
I
like
think it's important like to make sure like as long as the government is doing like good things with like the taxes you're paying, like good things will happen. And I think that's also a problem in our country because like we don't see the benefits that like our taxes are being paid.
I
As
think
opposed to, like a lot. Good.
I think that's a problem just in general worldwide.
I don't think it's as bad in like Europe because like and just like from reading about what people say, like Americans are like no taxes, lower taxes, lower taxes, which is weird because like I feel like other countries are kind of like we'll pay taxes as long as like we get some benefit out of it. Like they're not so opposed to it because they see more of like the benefits of it.
Yeah, I mean, as long as like you show them like concrete results, I don't understand how anyone could argue with that. But in the same breath is like if you know that, like, do you think that's achievable here with like I remember we talked about changing like political culture, and that would be pretty key. But
Tell me that someone knows how to spend my money better than I do.
I just think that, it's not even like a political theory thing or an economic theory thing. I think it's just a human problem thing, in my opinion. I just think that I think that greed overtakes anything in any sort of theory. There's greed in socialism, there's greed in communism, all that.
I agree, but I think that capitalism like enhances that greed because it's kind of like a game. It's like you got to build up as much money as you can.
Yeah, for sure. I I follow this one account on Instagram. He wrote a foreword for a book. I'm gonna try to get that author on there here too, so that'd be interesting. Um, I'm just gonna read a couple things from it. So, human beings are naturally prone to occasionally realize errors when it comes to decision making, regardless of one's acumen and level of education. Every individual at one point or another falls prey to faulty reasoning, which may result from either insufficient information or a lack of judgment in the decision being made. If an individual reflects hard enough about the past, they may come to think of a few times they made a decision so foolish that they would deem themselves as being dumb at the time of the mistake. Wisdom stems from owning up to one's mistake and learning from them so that they may not be repeated. However, it seems as though the profession of politics has freed itself from this responsibility of owning up to one's mistakes. After all, when was the last time you heard a politician apologize for an error in a specific policy that they enacted and turned sour? Rather than owning up to one's mistake, the bureaucrat has developed the skill in deflecting personal responsibility and blaming another party, business, or country as to why their grand idea failed. It is even debatable as to whether politicians have learned anything from their mistakes, as many of the policies proposed today are the same mistaken ones that were enacted in the previous century. There was one thing they said.
That's pretty interesting.
Humans are not God. They are not omniscient. Oh my god, this is a college level word.
Omniscient.
Omniscient, yeah. Nor will they ever reach the land of complete certainty where they will know all of the proper steps to do in order to get the exact outcome that they desire. On the contrary, life is uncertain, which leads humans to settle with man-made theories and arguments that attempt to discover certainty and apply such ideas to better the standard of living of a nation. Unfortunately, theories live long lives no matter how much evidence has shown their failure, whether Marxism or Keynesianism. As a result, policies inspired by such ideas that have proved futile are pressed onward by politicians regardless of their devastating effects, such as the war on poverty, through welfare, or the egalitarianism attempting to educate everyone through government-funded schooling. The risk of policymaking is that much of what has been enacted is imposed by bureaucrats far from the lives of those whom the policy is attempting to help, such as those in Congress or in the European Union. After all, what does a congressman or woman residing in Washington, D.C. understand the needs of a farmer in Kansas? In consequence, there arises a diversion of information due to the separation of environments as compared to a politician who is elected to serve the municipality and is based within the town of the farmer in Kansas. This is from the account Pavel the Localist. So again, he wrote the foreword for this book called Political Decisions and Economic Outcomes by Germinal G. Van. It's out now, I believe. I'm definitely going to be buying my copy in the next couple of days, but what are your initial thoughts on that? That was a lot to take in.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting passage, to be honest. I thought it was interesting how he's like, yeah, like humans like learn from their mistakes or whatever, and politicians just never think about their mistakes, never own up to it.
Think about them. I just don't think they own up to them because it's political suicide in the current political climate to do that. You have to be able to blame it on someone else, or you're.
That's why we should normalize apologizing. Like, I had a thought. If someone else wants to say something, go ahead.
Yeah, I think our current president is like the king of this. Like he'll blame everyone and anyone except saying, "Oh, my fault. I may have messed up." It's like, "Oh, my power just flickered." He's like, "Oh, China shouldn't have sent us the virus." When someone asks him like, "Why are poverty rates so high, unemployment so high?" China sent us the virus. It's always got to be a scapegoat.
Yeah, and then Biden does the same thing. It's the politicians. It's the political.
Yeah. I don't think it's as bad, but keep me up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's hard to find like a human solution for a lot of this stuff. Like there is stuff that could work. It could work some places and then doesn't work in other places. And then, it's weird how like some people are like, oh, like it worked here, but then when shown evidence of like it failing like in some place, they're like, oh no, don't worry about that. You know,
Yeah.
it's like they just like kind of toss it to the side. It's like, oh, they didn't do it right. Okay, well, that's the problem with theories. Is like there's always different ways to apply it, and like you brought up several different ways to apply like socialism to the economy, the government. You have a wide array to choose from, and especially if you're looking for a mixed basket of the sorts, it's going to be even more like you don't know. Like some policies might contradict one another and make it harder, even make it even more harder for policymakers, and then in turn harder for the people that live there.
I think the two-party system, I always got to bring that up. I think that kind of contributes to this problem because like you have like the conservatives, which is like the Republican Party, and you have like people who are like moderates all the way to like evangelical Christians. And then like on the left, you have like the same thing. It's like people who are like, oh, like slightly like liberal. And then you have people who are like full on communists who like think we need a revolution. Like the parties are so wide that there's not like one like ideology for each party. It's kind of just like we believe this more than this, so this is our party now. And it's weird.
So what would be the solution? That's what we're here to do. We're trying to discuss solutions.
More parties.
I think we got to change the voting system.
No.
I don't know. I like ranked choice voting. I don't think that's the best. There's got to be something better than that, but it's definitely better than what we have now.
How did Maine do with the ranked choice voting? They actually used it this election.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Let's see.
I saw a couple other states adopted it for the first time this election too. I think was it Colorado? No, maybe not.
I would like to say that I have been searching for probably about a year and a half, 2 years now, for an answer on why the Electoral College is the thing.
It always comes back to the Electoral College.
Like everyone always bashes it, and I like to know why we're bashing something. So, like, I couldn't find a reason for a good year and a half about why it was still a thing. I finally got one. It's that we are not a democracy. We are a democratic republic. So we elect the people that are going to be voting in our interests, which is why we don't just do the popular vote. Fun fact.
I think we could still have like I don't think the Electoral College is needed to have that system. You can still elect people to vote for you without the Electoral College.
But then your votes would win every time.
What do you mean?
Like, I'm including you as like a Democratic liberal because they outnumber the rest of the country by a fair margin. And if they,
I mean, I think if you wanted any like evidence of like them outnumbering, you just have to kind of look at this election. Like it wasn't as wasn't that big of a gap. I think it's probably larger than it ever has been, but
I saw a tweet during the election, just like a funny thing. I saw a tweet that said the Electoral College is affirmative action for Republicans.
I think that the Electoral College has like garnered so much criticism after this election from both sides. So I wonder what's going to happen with that.
can I,
I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a better system. Maybe not. Maybe the popular vote isn't the better system, but there's got to be a better system.
can I ask,
States' rights. That's the system.
Sean? Yes.
so even though I'm pretty sure, or I definitely know what Aaron is going to say to this, I think I know what he's going to say too, but I figure I'll ask. What are your thoughts on Donald Trump not conceding the election and saying that he is going to force recounts basically everywhere that matters?
He's been saying he's going to do this for months. No one should be surprised. I think he might have to be removed, but I don't think he's going to be president anymore.
Do you think he has a right to do that?
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants. He should just let the courts handle it instead of tweeting about it.
Yeah.
The fun fact about him being removed from office, not just leaving, the European Union actually like met last year, all their leaders, and they had to come up with, they had like strategy meetings about what happens if Donald Trump loses the presidency and refuses to step down. as president. Like they actually have a plan for what happens. If
I don't know why anyone's surprised. He's literally been saying it for years.
I mean, the whole latter part of his term just became a re-election campaign.
Yeah, he should have focused on doing things. He probably would have won.
Yeah, that was his fatal mistake.
He'll win in 2024, though. I think, to be honest, he's gonna run again and win. Because everyone's gonna forget why they don't like him, and then he's gonna win by a lot.
No,
You think that there's a world where people forget why they don't like him?
I think the people in the middle are gonna forget.
If he runs in 2024, 100% Democrats win by a landslide.
Really, you think?
Yes.
Depends what Joe Biden does too. If he can attack Joe Biden well.
No, the problem is the Republicans are not going to run him. He's gonna do it as an independent candidate, and he's gonna split the Republican vote in half, and then it's gonna be a landslide victory.
And then we're gonna have real socialism.
Yeah. A landslide victory for the Democrats. Like he lost, it sucks. You had a great run. Like it was a lot of fun. I know I enjoyed myself. You think he did some good things while he was in office. I don't think he's as bad as a lot of people seem to think. But you lost, and that's tough. It really is. It's tough. But you lost. You got to concede. You got to let the Republican Party move forward. If you really care more about the party than you care about yourself, you have to let the Republican Party move forward.
And I think that just then the last thing, he does not care about the party.
Facts.
So, I mean, I feel like running as an independent would probably represent his ideological standpoint better than what he was doing. But maybe we'll talk about that another time. We're out of time today. So thank you for listening. Boys, thank you for joining us. Luke, good luck on your clinicals. Signing out. See you. Have a good one.